in
Yeah,
government
your
benefits.
source being the Heritage Foundation is literally a right-wing think tank.
Yeah, it is. But the thing about that, it's still statistics.
If I cited to you CNN, would you accept that?
Yeah, I'd take CNN. Perfect.
So if I found the most liberal possible source, you would accept that?
Well, it depends on how they get their numbers. 6, 19.
And why do you support Trump? And actually, wait, what month were you born?
July.
Okay, all right. Why do you support Trump?
Due to immigration, I believe that I support his stance on not allowing amnesty for overstayed visas in the United States, which a lot of people have been pushing for.
Okay, and what benefit has Trump made to our society by engaging his immigration policy?
I believe that it's lowered the amount. I believe it's lowered the cost on taxpayers when it comes to supporting illegal immigrants, because when they come inside of the United States, it costs more for the taxpayers because they get social services by overstaying their visas.
Undocumented immigrants who are overstaying their visa won't get access to any social services. Secondly, they'll be paying into the system, right? In many of the instances, specifically through the context of ITINs. So undocumented immigrants will pay into the systems, but won't receive in terms of benefits. So it's actually the other way around. Plus, immigration over the past 30 years, according to the Cato Institute, has reduced deficits by $14.5 trillion. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts on that is that currently, when you're talking about that, I think that are you taking it as do you support? I just want to take this first off before I respond. Do you support giving amnesty to undocumented migrants in the United States, like if they overstay their visa?
Yeah, if they haven't committed a violent or serious offense.
Okay, I don't, because the thing about that is that right now, a lot of the illegal immigrants, I believe it's according to Heritage Foundation, they find that they are net tax consumers where the benefits that they receive exceeds the taxes they pay, which generates a fiscal deficit. It has to be financed by tax from other households or government borrowing. And here's like one statistic, like in 2010, the U.S. household population as a whole, headed by persons without a high school degree, on average, received $46,582 in government
Yeah, your
benefits.
source being the Heritage Foundation is literally a right-wing think tank.
Yeah, it is. But the thing about that, it's still statistics. You can't argue with the numbers there.
Oh, I mean, I can argue and say that they are just claiming bullshit, and they're not actually having legitimate sources because it's literally the Heritage Foundation, an anti-immigration think tank.
Okay, well then let me find another one.
Like if I cited to you CNN, would you accept that?
Yeah, I'd take CNN. Perfect.
So if I found the most liberal possible source, you would accept that?
Well, it depends on how they get their numbers.
Yeah, if I went to the oh, now it depends on how they get their numbers. Okay, so
Well, I mean,
okay.
as in, are the numbers legitimate?
Okay, so
I believe so too.
Yeah, and I don't think there's any meaningfully good studies that actually demonstrate that there's a net fiscal drain. I think the only place you're ever going to find a claim that there's a net fiscal drain from immigration is literally from anti-immigration think tanks. I'm serious. You can look at the bibliography in my bio. I have a bunch of different studies on immigration.
But don't you think that granting amnesty, like, because I'm gonna be honest here, this is my biggest issue with the amnesty argument, is that does it not take away from individuals who attempt to go through here on the legal route?
No. I would argue that if we're making the legal pathway open to them quicker, that would be better for them.
No, but what I mean is if they overstay their visa, right? Then they stay within the United States illegally, and then we grant them amnesty for a pathway to gain legal citizenship. Would that not only incentivize people to overstay their visa and go about that way rather than staying in their home country and going through the proper process for citizenship?
If we provided a quick legal pathway, well, then they would just be incentivized to go through the quick legal pathway because that would be quicker than going through the process undocumented and then having to apply under a system where they'd be disenfranchised rather than just being able to go directly through the quick legal process. So it needs to be accompanied by also another quick legal process, making the legal process quicker as well. Plus, you understand that we've done mass amnesty historically. Like
Yes.
even under Reagan, we've done mass amnesty, and it didn't cause all these impacts that you're mentioning.
Wait. talking about that mass amnesty part of it. I think I have this written down here. I believe it was 1989. Yeah. In 1986, we had basically said, "Hey, we're gonna give these people mass amnesty in exchange for stricter border protections," but that hasn't gone through. So if we give mass amnesty now, the precedent doesn't support it, because in the past when we did that, we didn't have stricter border security and nothing really changed. We just gave people amnesty without any real trade-offs in a positive manner.
Well, I mean, I don't mind if you want to have stricter border security if you want to make the legal process go significantly quicker and use due process. There's no issue with that. The issue is that we currently have a legal process that takes too long, where there are so many people that want to come to the country for a better life that aren't able to come to the country through a better life, instead have to come to the country through the process undocumented because the legal process takes way too long. So if you make the legal process very quick, no one has an issue with that, with you enforcing immigration law beyond that. Because that's mainly going to impact people that have committed violent and serious offenses, those that are actually a threat to the safety and security of our population.
But do you not think that the reason why, if like we speed up the intake of not illegal immigrants, but immigrants in general to the United States, would that not just become a surplus of social need because so many people want to come here, but most of them won't be providing high skilled labor that would allow them to come,
immigrants coming to our country actually have a higher labor force participation rate than natural born U.S. citizens, so they're actually providing more into the system than the typical American.
If they're able to do that, why don't they just go through the H-1B visas then?
Because H-1B visa is only for specific individuals. Not everyone applies to that program. And we don't just need what's designated under the H-1B visa program to be highly skilled labor. We need immigration across the board.
That's interesting. But you are still in support of giving them amnesty while they're here.
Yeah, if they have not committed a violent or serious offense. I see no negative impact to doing that.
I
think that would incentivize people to go through the legal process rather than incentivize them to go through the process undocumented.
No, I feel like that really went, because if you're going to be rewarding individuals for overstaying,
no, you're rewarded for going through the legal process, because the legal process is now significantly quicker. Whereas right now you're rewarded for going through the process undocumented because the current legal process takes too long. Why are people going through the process undocumented? Because the current process takes too long. So how do you disincentivize people to go through the process undocumented? By making the legal process go quicker.
And you mentioned something
for
about
the people who are already in the country, we want to vet them. We want to make sure they're vetted. We don't just want a bunch of people in our country we don't know who they are, right? The best way to ensure that they're vetted is by providing them an incentive to vet themselves to authorities and to go through the vetting process, which would be a pathway to citizenship where they don't have to leave the country. That's the only way that you will meaningfully incentivize people who are already in the country undocumented to identify themselves to authorities, which will make it easier for law enforcement to focus on those that have come here who are actually a threat to the safety and security of our population, right? Who have committed a violent or serious offense.
So I just want to make this clear, like that. So basically, you're advocating for not giving amnesty to individuals who overstay their visa, but rather make it easier for people to come through here legally so that they don't have to do the overstay in the first place.
No, the amnesty is simply a transitionary period while we make the legal process go quicker.
So
with the legal process being made quicker. So it's for those that were disenfranchised by the prior system. Does that make sense?
So you're saying like people who were already here, give them amnesty while we transition into a quicker legal process for them. It's essentially like it's like kind of like similar to the 1986 amnesty one, but instead of promising stricter borders, we're promising a quicker way to citizenship.
Well, no, there still will be border security. I don't disagree with there being border security. I just want to go after those that have actually committed a violent or serious offense, and not just people who are coming here for a better life. And this is the process to incentivize people to go through the legal process. It's the best way to do so.
That makes sense. Okay. Also, I'd just like to say I thank you for being respectful throughout this. And do you not think, though, that by, speeding up this amount of like people coming in, because it would cause an influx, of people coming in to the country. So
I actually think that's good.
You think okay. I can understand. But if we make it easier to such a great extent, would that not just cause, maybe lower income individuals, less educated individuals, and just put more of a strain on the United States when we already have so many issues economically and we don't really have the capacity to support more people without making it?
We do have the capacity to support more people, and I would say they're supporting us when they come here because they're going to be reducing our deficits. Because think about it this way. We've been below sorry, I can't speak. We've been below for what's it called, replacement level fertility rates since around the 1970s. So there's going to be a greater proportion of our population that is older on social services such as Medicare and Social Security for
Mhm.
longer periods of time because of increasing life expectancy. So we'll have significantly less younger people paying into the system to be able to pay for the people who are older on the system for longer. How do we be able to
Mhm.
subsidize that system? We need more younger people who are going to work to be able to fund the system. That's immigration. Because immigrants are
Mm.
proportionally more likely to work. They have a higher labor force participation rate. So it's actually a superpower that we have access to here in the United States that other countries aren't willing to dip into, right? That will allow for us to continue our level of growth, economic growth, where other countries will stagnate and decline. Like, for example, China. China's population will literally be 40% over the age of 60 by 2075.
Yeah,
And
that's
why is that?
partially.
That's because of the fact that their population is aging. They had a low fertility rate for a long period of time, meaning a huge portion of their population will be older and won't even be able to work. Literally, the only way they're planning on continuing is by increasing productivity, by increasing access to AI. That's their goals right now. Otherwise, the only way that they could meaningfully achieve a continual policy that would lead to more economic growth in the long run, otherwise they'll just lead to the same thing that happened with Japan, is by allowing for more immigration, which is something that could potentially happen out of a necessity within the context of China in order to maintain economic growth.
Their population pyramid is essentially becoming an inverted one at the moment. Um, don't
Yeah,
you
like
think
their
that's more?
population will start declining within the next decade or two.
Yeah. Don't you think that's more related to the two-child birth policy rather than immigration as a whole, though?
No, of course, it was related to that. I'm saying immigration is the way that you can subvert any sort of
Oh,
issue with fertility
oh,
rates. So immigration is something
okay.
they could achieve, they could do that could help them deal with their lack of fertility rates,
Uh-huh.
and it could help us deal with our lack of fertility rates. But we're more likely to dip into that than China is.
Okay, okay. Do you have like? I'm just wondering, like, do you have like a source or something that would like support the claim about immigrants bringing like profits to the United States?
Yes, the Cato
Just by
Institute. Over the past 30 years, immigrants have decreased the federal deficit by $14.5 trillion, according to the
Mhm.
Cato Institute.
Okay, okay. Well, that's quite strong. That is quite strong. I think I might have to concede with you on this point. It's very strong.
Here's my points: is that immigration very beneficial to our economy, very beneficial to our
Mhm.
society, right? It's more humanitarian for us to make the legal process go quicker because it's better treatment. I think it's just a foundational element of our society that we should be thanking people for coming to our country to want to come here to be Americans rather than hating on them for wanting to come here to be American. If someone wants to come here for a better life and they want to be an American, I want them to be an American so long as that they're not here to harm us, which is true in most cases, right? Very small percent of people are have committed violent and serious offenses. Okay, so
Uh-huh.
most people overwhelmingly are good people coming to our society because they want to be an American and they want a better life.
At that point, why not we open up the borders?
Well, we need restrictions. If someone's committed a violent or serious offense, we don't want them in our country.
Hmm.
So there
That
are
makes sense.
realistic reasons to have some restrictions. Those are really good reasons to have restrictions. But people go way too far with the restrictions, where it then leads to people being disenfranchised who shouldn't be because they're just here for a better life.
Wait, when you mean
And
disenfranchised, do you mean by voting rights?
I mean, by legal immigrants are disenfranchised, trying to come to our country through the quick way, and it doesn't. It takes way too long to go through it. There are legal immigrants under TPS that removed their legal status. There are legal immigrants under legal permanent residency that Donald Trump held for over 100 days. For example, Mahmoud Khalil, without due process, simply because he wanted to remove them from the country because they engaged in pro-Palestinian advocacy. So he was trying to undermine their First Amendment rights. His administration's gone after those that have gone towards their legal court dates. There have been countless examples of people being treated significantly worse off under the Trump administration so far.
Okay, I agree with you there. When it comes to border now, I like to say the other reason why I support Trump is partially due to tariffs, and I do know that hurts the consumer, but I believe that through tariffs we will be strengthening our national economy by focusing production within the United States rather than having everything be exported onto offshore like refineries and factories and that sort of.
So Donald Trump's tariffs have actually led to a decrease in real domestic manufacturing investment every single quarter of Trump's administration so far. Why? Because it's increased the cost of manufacturing within this country. Because many of the aspects of the manufacturing process, many of the materials that we rely upon in our manufacturing process and the assembly process here in this country, they come from countries around the world. So if you increase the cost of trade from those for those materials coming to our country, it's going to increase the cost of manufacturing within our country, therefore disincentivizing manufacturing within our country. Plus, there's not much of an incentive to come back through the context of the tariffs in the very first place, because we don't know how long they're going to be in place. And actually, the Supreme Court's even determined them to be unconstitutional. So there's not really much of a long-term basis for the tariffs because they were passed by executive policy and can be taken away very quickly. And right, they have caused an increase in the cost of manufacturing, therefore disincentivizing it within the country. I think the Biden process of addressing the need to increase manufacturing investment in our country is the better way of doing so through the Chips and Science Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, and the Bipartisan Infrastructure Bill. I think those policies actively increase manufacturing investment. We saw a massive boom in manufacturing investment under the Biden-Harris administration to levels we haven't seen in decades.
So why not production switch from importing goods for their factories from outside lands to getting it from within the United States? If we work off capitalism, would that not be just the obvious move there to increase profits?
I'm confused. Repeat your question. Sorry.
Because you talk about how it costs more for companies to import goods now, correct?
Yeah.
So we work off capitalism, and we're not exactly laissez-faire anymore after Great Depression, but we still work at profits. So if a company is hurting because they're importing these tariff goods, is that not the point? So that now they'll switch to a company within the United States and be similar to kind of vertical integration in that aspect and decrease the amount of money that other countries are getting while maximizing it within the United States?
It doesn't maximize our profit because it reduces our innovation on a world stage, reduces competition, it reduces our willingness to be able to trade with other countries, destabilizes our relationships with countries all around the world. It raises consumer prices, disenfranchising consumers in this country, which will then limit their capacity to buy other products, which could be very good for companies within this country. Plus, there are companies within this country that rely upon selling their products to other countries around the world. So all those industries will be disenfranchised.
Wait, but that still doesn't answer, like, why don't they switch to
like an American, because it's more costly.
Like American goods.
It's more costly.
So you're saying it's more costly even with the tariff. It's
Yes.
more costly to switch to within the United
Yes.
States. How would that just
The
be
tariff
because
needs
of,
to be even higher in order for
So-
you to justify that. But then the issue is, if you do that, it will then cause prices to go up for manufacturing. So it's kind of like an issue there where you don't know at what point it will start causing the increase in manufacturing, because you don't know at what point it will then become less costly to buy the American-produced goods.
Okay. And also, on your point about tariffs in the Supreme Court, didn't they only strike down the worldwide one because they thought that was too broad, but they didn't strike down the specialized one, like for like individual areas?
Repeat that one more time. I really didn't follow. I apologize.
No, it's cool. Because let me check what was it. It was security-based imports. And when it comes to like the Supreme Court, because they base a lot of their things off of like determination of a national security threat, if I'm correct. And most of it was based off of the Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act.
Yeah, the blanket tariffs that he placed. You're asking about them being unconstitutional?
Yeah. Because didn't they say there was only constitutional for the worldwide one because it gave Congress the sole power to lay and collect taxes, duties, and
it can't be placed by the executive, right, for that type of policy. Yeah, it needs to be passed by Congress.
Yeah, but the thing about that is that they said it was only okay if they determined it to be a national security threat, because then that was taxable by the president.
Yeah, there would have to be a deemed national security threat, yes.
Okay.
And it's only for an emergency time period. I think it's for like 120 days or something.
Okay. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. It's because I had to do like a debate on this, and that's what I used. I remember that's why.
Because their argument for the national security was that trade deficits equal national security, which is bullshit.
Trade deficits equal national security.
Yeah, which is stupid. That's obviously ridiculous.
And do you want manufacturing to be focused within the United States at like a vertical integration level, or do you think that should be from
Vertical
now on?
integration and horizontal integration are bad. We don't want monopolization. We want more competition. And then
No, I'm not saying
also,
like
like,
yeah.
do we want within certain critical industries? We do want the production here in this country, but only in hyper specific critical industries. Not every industry. It makes no sense to force it in every industry. But for some critical industries like chips production, or like energy production, I think that makes sense.
Okay, so like
Like
kind of
for
similar
example,
to
energy
yeah,
production, I want to build up renewable energy production really, really much.
like nuclear.
Renewable nuclear isn't renewable, but it's something I also do want to build up because I think
Oh
it's
yeah.
good for taking care of inconsistencies for any sort of thing we can't provide through renewables.
Okay, okay. And for your determination on what would be like a national security threat, is it kind of similar to how like we have like today how we have like the rational bias test, but then there's also like the strict scrutiny test, kind of like that where it has to be like a hyper specific thing that's like very important to the government and like has like a
Yeah, I
compelling
think it's just going to
interest.
be context dependent, really.
Context dependent. Okay.
And
Okay.
I think like well the notion is that when we see an emergency we'll know it, and that we're not in a state of emergency right now. That's actually why it was so necessary for them to establish this precedent, because if they didn't, then you can just call whatever you want an emergency.
Uh-huh. Okay. Okay. Then that makes a lot more sense then. Well, I think you've convinced me pretty well. Like that like I'm gonna be honest with you. I thank you so much for like being very respectful because I've gone on other ones and people have just like cussed me out for my questions. And
Hmm.
I'm like, oh my God. So I just really wanted to thank you. And yes, you have convinced me and I no longer support Trump because of this.
Okay, well I appreciate you very much. Thank you for
Thank
coming
you.
up.